right end, there's always room for another.
Hey guys, welcome to Turn2, where you have the advantage show about Hearthstone from me and Artosis, and we've got two awesome guests on the show this week, Chris Chan, otherwise known as Chanman5, and Nick, otherwise known as LS. So, hey guys, how's this going? I guess we'll just go around the room, the virtual room, see how everybody's doing. How you doing, Dan? Artosis?
I'm doing great, man. Hearthstone, a lot of fun, and I've been playing mostly Shaman, but I started playing Priest last night and realized why no one's playing Priest, so I'm back to Shaman.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
I think we've all had that experience in the beta so far. How about you, Chris? How's it going?
Going well, going well. I've had the same experience with Priest, going 1-0 and 2-0 in Arena with with Priest. So I think I've given up on the Priest for the time being. But good otherwise.
Everybody's really down on priests. Like, Nick, how do you feel? How are you doing? But also, how do you feel about priests?
No, I'm
I guess
doing
we're
good,
just
man.
doing this.
I played a lot of Rogue in Arena last night. I feel really good.
Horrible. You horrible person.
I made a lot of profit. No,
Don't
but
you have
Priest
any
is pretty
dignity?
terrible. Priest is pretty. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's in a really weird spot right now because of its heal.
Yeah.
Kind of acts like Warrior, but just its cards don't have enough support. So
Yeah.
If you
Well,
could
really, I
guarantee
mean-
Shadow Priest, man, could guarantee Shadow Priest, it'd be a different story.
I hope so, man. Actually, I feel like we're already like spiraling off into topics, but Shadow Priest is something that would be really cool. But again, it's all about the consistency. But I suppose we actually have like notes in the corner of the screen for like topics we're supposed to talk about. So we should try to follow that. The tournament format discussion, maybe we can touch on that a little bit. But I want to wait till next week possibly with that one. We're going to try to get Joshi from Blizzard on the show to talk about that because he's got kind of a cool tournament format that he came up with. So maybe, I don't know if we can just kind of touch on it a little bit, talking about the current formats we've seen so far, but then maybe move on to the randomness one a little bit quicker. So tournament formats. Right now, in tournaments, we've seen a lot of best of ones, but also a lot of best of threes. We've seen some sideboard, some not sideboard. What do you think? What's your opinions? We'll just go into whoever wants to talk.
Someone mentioned about, I forget who I was talking to, it was probably one of you guys, but like a 15-card sideboard?
It's
Yeah,
way
you
too
were talk-
big.
you were talking to me, you were
Way
talking to
too
me.
big for
Okay. Yeah.
Hearthstone.
Yeah, no,
That's great.
when I heard that, I'm like, could you know any less about this game to think of something like 15 card that's Magic where you can put in a
Yeah.
certain amount and like if you can
You can
switch
have 4
15
of
cards in
something.
a deck, it's like an entirely different deck.
Well, that's
So,
half your deck.
Which,
That's-
yeah.
Sideboards, like if we're gonna do something with sideboards, first off, that's so hard to actually control. I like some of the other ideas that are out there, but like a sideboard would have to be very small, like 5 cards or something. I
Yeah.
think
I think
very,
like 5 or
very
6
small.
is a good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 5 is the perfect amount.
I could
Yeah.
see maybe 8.
I
But
was
I wonder if
I was
that's
just about to
a
say
little
8.
big. Yeah.
I
'cause-
feel like
so-
with 8, I could take out all of my like control elements and make my deck beat down suddenly. With
Yeah,
8. It's
that's
like,
8 may be a little bit too big. 5 or 6 is probably best. That's like
Yeah.
3
So, I mean,
cards,
so-
you go 2 of each. But
Playing devil's advocate, what do you guys not like about just being able to come with a completely different deck between games?
Well, in
because then it's
Yu-Gi-Oh,
random. You're just like flipping coins because like what if you're like, oh, I'm going to turn this into more beatdown, then he just switches his deck completely, and then you just have like this scrub game that it's like these 2 decks that aren't quite as good as the first decks that were played or something.
yeah, that happened to me actually in a tournament that I was playing between game 1 and 2. There wasn't really any rule about like what cards you could switch out, and the guy just basically like made a completely different deck only with the same class, and I was like, oh well, I mean that's the rules of this tournament, so that's fine, but it was a little bit. It does throw a little bit of inconsistency in terms of like the competitive aspect of it. So.
Yeah, that's true. There is there's some gaming aspect too. If the decks were or the classes had the ability to build very different type of, like maybe an aggro deck and then maybe a control deck, there'd be some kind of interesting aspect to that. But I get what you mean though. It'd be less consistent and more coin flippy.
Yeah.
It's true.
And in a card game, you want to down the coin flippiness as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want it to be competitive, yeah.
Not to start talking about the flipping of the coin, which is the most
That's
crucial
a
part of
whole-
any Hearthstone
We'll get
game.
to that. That's,
Oh man.
that's different. Any thoughts on tournament formats, LS?
Well, I mean, in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have a 40 card minimum deck. I mean, Hearthstone has a maximum of 30, so that's a little bit different. How like in Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, you can go over, like the minimum. You know what I mean? And Yu-Gi-Oh, it has 15 with a 40 card deck, which is what basically all pros play. They play minimum 40, so they can draw into their cards and whatever. But 15, even if they are able to morph the deck, I think it still takes skill to be able to create a deck that you can morph in and out of like one deck into another. But I think with 30 cards and then there's the max limit on it, I feel like 6 or 7 would be optimal for like side decking or sideboarding, and it still limits it to like a controlling feature, but it does still allow you to switch in and out of elements. Like tempo could possibly go into control or tempo could go into aggro, with like a 6 to 8. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, the other thing that like Doa and Ask Joshi like touched on with like you submit like 3 decks or something, and then you play basically like a King of the Hill with them. I mean, it's kind of good, but
We'll go into that
either one,
more.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a really I really like that format, and I want to talk about it a lot. But since like Joshi invented and all that, I want to like be respectful and wait till he's on the show to give him the chance to kind of do that. So, but yeah, I mean I think right now at least if you're gonna have like single deck formats, a limited sideboard would be much better. And probably I personally think that people should submit card lists before the tournament. That's what you have to do in Magic, and then just. No, and although there's no way to like really make people accountable for that, other than somebody saying, "Oh, I saw this guy play this card. It wasn't the deck list." But it's so hard to have any sort of accountability in Hearthstone tournaments right now, too. And I mean, all this stuff will kind of like get fixed as things go on. I mean, we don't even have a spectator client yet, so like even holding tournaments right now is kind of iffy. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of good stuff that will be coming, but definitely a lot of changes that need to be made.
We are. Let's remember, we're in like the first month of the beta.
Oh yeah,
so I can't complain too much, except about the coin.
Feels much longer than a month for some of us.
Well, let's talk about randomness, because I think the coin.
There's a lot of randomness.
There's a lot of randomness.
We should hold the coin talk off just a little bit still, though.
All right.
Because there's other random factors that I think are huge as well, like that warrior card that kills all but one minion, and then like
Brawl?
Playing Shaman,
Brawl.
a lot of my cards are like deal 2 or 3 damage.
Yeah.
And then I'd look at the board and I'm like, I could have a sick turn if this hits just right. And it's like, then I summon my random totem to see if I get the spell power totem, and then if I do or I don't, it changes things so much. And of course there should be some amount of randomness, because if you look at it compared to like, for instance, Magic, some of the bad luck was taken out by the way that they do mana in this game. So, they're adding in luck, like a little bit of randomness in other areas, which does make it a bit more exciting. It's not just a complete math problem. There's there's been games I've come back because, I get the totem out, it's a spell power, and then I hit, like 4 on everything or something like that, and then it makes it kind of exciting, but I don't know. There seems like there's a lot of effects like that.
My question now, and I mean, I like randomness in this stuff because I mean, it does make it more fun. It does make it easier to come back and stuff like that. And nobody is really still sure just how competitive Blizzard wants to make Hearthstone. If they just want it to be more casual, which it kind of looks like right now, or if they want to have some aspect of it that's super competitive. And right now, I feel like there's too much randomness for it to be really competitive, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe this game doesn't need to be, as serious as like StarCraft or something like that. So how do you feel? Is that okay? Should this game be more competitive? Should it have less randomness, or should it be the way it is?
I'd prefer it to have less randomness, honestly, if it's going to be competitive. I try to avoid those random cards, kind of honestly, right now. And it's impossible to avoid it with the Shaman, since a lot of the play is based on that 2 or 3 damage card. Drives me crazy. The Lightning Storm, I believe that's what it's called. But yeah, to make it competitive, I feel like you have to, for it to be skill based, you have to have it so that, luck is removed to the most, to the highest or to the most that they can, right? And I don't know. I think that's what they should do if they're going to make it more competitive.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just like it's up to people, kind of like. how competitive they want to be with it. It's already pretty hyper competitive, if you ask me, since like 80% of the decks you hit at the top of Masters is Rogue. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
well, you guys aren't playing for fun. That's for goddamn sure. Like,
They're going for the wins.
I mean, it has both aspects, which is really nice, and I think that's like super important. Like,
You mean it's not fun going, laying down 12 cards at a time?
no, I guess
I'm sure
you know
it's
what?
fun for
Maybe that
them.
is fun. Maybe I'm the one screwing up here.
I'm sure it is fun, but that's a whole another topic.
Yeah, I feel like if they're gonna make it competitive, like, I mean, they have a really good opportunity to make it competitive because mainly it is online. This like removes the factor of cheating or anything, which like runs rampant in like live tournaments, live regionals, nationals, whatever, where a lot of players actually just know how to cheat, card manipulation, sleight of hand, whatever. So the online factor is really nice, but Blizzard, they need to remove the random factor, either just like by fading out the cards and doing something like Magic does, where they add like expansion packs and then kill off older packs, and they can just kind of eliminate it that way, or they can actually, because it is online and there's no live cards, they can actually just simply patch it. But like the random factor, it's too random. Sometimes like there's games that are guaranteed wins if it just goes one way, and then it's like a guaranteed loss if it goes the other, and you can't. I don't feel like you can have a true esport that way. If like the player doesn't actually have a part in controlling the randomness. But then you kind of like you pull in like poker's luck, factor where people talk about card manipulation in poker.
To a certain extent, like randomness also does part of the balancing work for them too,
Yeah.
because you can have things that are slightly imbalanced that'll be countered by randomness sometimes. And so overall it'll reduce the effectiveness of this thing that's maybe a little bit more overpowered. Like, I mean, if you're talking about rogues a lot, rogues are beatable, certainly beatable. But you have to kind of have that sort of randomness on your side, I feel like, if you're playing against a competent rogue player with a good rogue deck right now.
There needs to be randomness as well, or like it'll end up everyone playing like the same deck.
Yeah, exactly.
The same exact way, because the game isn't like StarCraft. It's like you can play a perfect game. So I mean, there has to be some amount of randomness. They took a lot of randomness out.
But not like what Nick's talking. I mean, not so random like Nick's talking about though, because I mean, it really is. I can see those decks that are just either your first 4 cards or your first 8 cards go one way, you win for sure, and then if it doesn't go that way, you lose like instantly, right? And you can do that a lot right now.
I feel like a deck like that, you're gonna knock it down to percentages. How often is this working? And better players will grind above that. You know what I mean? Like, it'll get
in a tournament environment,
deserve, but that's like cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in a tournament environment, I mean, those are the kind of guys you see, have upsets, right? Upset like a bunch of favorites, and that type of, upsetting people in that type of fashion, I think is not great for a competitive environment.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, in Magic the Gathering and every other card game for years and years, it's all about, like, you see the videos where the guy's about to lose, but then he top decks, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, and he throws a card on the table. It's like, oh, you top decked so well, right? But, I mean, that's kind of just something that I feel like we have to accept as, like, the nature of CCGs to a certain extent, too. And I think what Dan said is really right, where the people that are good and grind it out will rise above. Like, the level that randomness affects a game is going to always stay the same. It's going to always be right here. But someone's skill at like making good decisions in the game can be like anywhere like around here. So all the people that are down here are going to be lower on the ladder, and all the people that are up here are going to be higher, right? Where that randomness is going to stay the same, but the factor is still going to be influenced by their personal skill, their decision making in the game. So we're always going to get good players at the top, but those good players are going to be upsetting each other with randomness, which is kind of the nature of CCGs right there. Yeah,
it's always going to be part of it, and especially if you make like a good tournament format. Like, randomness is going to be some part, but like if you have like a good sideboard rule or a best of X rule, stuff like that, then the better player still a good chunk of the time is going to grind right out, as long as there's like enough tournaments and stuff. But at the same time, let's not suggest that necessarily people are going to make a living playing Hearthstone,
Yeah,
but
probably not.
At the same time, it's fun to enter some of these smaller tournaments, or just play a tournament for the hell of it,
All right.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. So let's move on, unless anybody wants to say anything more about randomness. Anybody? No?
I'll wait till we start talking about the coin.
Okay, well, let's just do it. Let's just talk about the coin. All right, let's get it out of the way.
Coin?
It's coin time. All right. The
God.
coin. Just in case some of you out there for some reason have no idea what the coin is, it's an actual card that you get if you go turn 2. It's cost 0. It gives you an extra mana for 1 turn only, and it's so overpowered right now.
It's
It's
a
really,
spell,
really,
and it's a card
killing
in your
us.
hand. Like,
Yes. That's right. I mean, let's just talk about some of the ways you can use the coin, right? Obviously, you can use it to combo with a rogue. That's the one everybody knows. You combo into Defias Ringleader, I think his name is,
yeah.
where he's a 2/3 that gets a 2/1. You get that on turn 1. There's literally no answer for that with 2 mana for the next turn. There's literally no answer for that in the game. The closest that it comes to is like the Shaman spell that's like 1 mana that does 2 to 3 damage, and so maybe you can kill one of the guys, but then you're overloaded the next turn, so it's still not that good. But like, so what can be done to like fix this coin situation? I think it's a given that it shouldn't be a card. It's a given that it shouldn't count
Yes.
towards combo and stuff like that. But do we still want to give out that 1 mana to turn 2? Like, how do they fix this coin issue?
I think you could. Well, the thing is, I'm not sure because I'd have to play with it. But as you said, Noah, it can't be a card. It can't be a spell because it's too stupid to be able to combo with it or use it later with a Twilight Drake or
Yeah,
to
that's
use it
not
with a Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
Yeah.
Anything like that, it's like the silliest thing. Or even that guy, whenever you play a spell, like gain 1/1.
Illidan,
So-
yeah.
I think there's like a lot of effects that it affects, and like I hold on to that thing till late game a lot of the time because then I just have this one sick turn where I get like a bunch of extra stuff done, and I think it just needs to be like it's something else. And I've been trying to think about this, like just have it be something like I think I read someone type that maybe it was be like an extra hero power just until it's used or something.
Or it's a
Yeah.
button. It's a button that's in the UI that you can use
Yeah.
it whenever you want to.
I mean, and this is kind of going into a discussion about turn 2 overall, which I think a lot of people would agree is a little bit too strong. I mean, they tried to, and I'm not quite sure, why they did things the way they did, because in Magic the Gathering, we had a pretty good system going where, you wouldn't get a draw on your first turn, but you would get to put down a mana, and so you'd have the opportunity to play a card that would be your advantage. And so turn 2, to compensate for that, they would, get to draw, but they would still only have that 1 mana. So that's where I feel like in Magic it was done so well, because both turn 1 and 2 had their own advantages, right? Where
Yeah.
turn 1 would always be 1 mana ahead, theoretically, but turn 2 would always be 1 card ahead, theoretically. So that they tried to change it and give like the extra card and extra mana to turn 2, that just kind of gimps turn 1 like all the time. So
Feels
now
like
there's no advantage for each. There's only an advantage for turn 2.
What do you think about adding a condition to the card, like in Magic the Gathering, Sarah's Angel? Well, like this card cannot be played on X turn. Like you'd like make the coin have a condition, like this cannot be activated until turn 3.
Or maybe it can't be activated after turn 3 or something too.
Something like
that,
yeah.
maybe.
You could
something
put
that
it in either
forces the
direction.
player.
I
And
just
this
wonder
card-
why we need to.
Yeah.
I just feel like, why do we need to give turn 2 an extra mana to begin with? I think
Yeah.
the 1 extra card is plenty. Like, I mean, I'm not just, and I mean, I know obviously Blizzard just doesn't want to be like, oh, we're just going to copy Magic the Gathering and do everything they did. Obviously, they want to have their own game and they want to have their own decisions with that. But it really, I mean, if you just think about the way that the turns work, the reason that Magic and the reason that so many other card games do it that way is because that's probably the most fair way to do it. And if they can come up with another way to do it, that's great. But right now, that certainly looks like the best way. Just an extra
feel like
card.
If you don't give the coin though, like this is, I mean, I feel like this is the only devil's advocate for the coin for turn 2 in Hearthstone versus Magic. Why do you give the extra mana? It's because of the hero power. Some hero powers are just going to be able to outright negate 1-drops. So even though you can go 1-drop for 1-drop, so a hero power will trade the card down, and then anyone that understands control or anything, 2 life for a card is completely fine. And I feel like a coin is a way around that, but you have to balance it around combo, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to see them change it to just have the coin not count as a card and a spell at first, and then just kind of see where
see how
things
that
go
goes.
from
Yeah, I think
there.
everybody
move
would
forward.
that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, like you said, turn 2 is just, it's crazy right now. I mean, that extra card too. So would you guys want just the coin and no extra card too? I mean, that's kind of what would be
Well,
okay, or do you think? the extra card right now on top of
A coin
just
versus the extra card?
Or, I mean, would you be okay with only the coin not counting as a spell, even with the extra card too, right now? Because the extra card too is a huge advantage too, right now.
And the fact that you can mulligan an extra card as well.
That's
is
kind of what I'm
really,
sorry.
really
That's what I
big.
Yeah.
meant. The mulligan.
Okay.
The mulligan.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the mulliganing, this
Yeah.
is another part that I was thinking about was why not have turn 1 guy start with 4 cards and be able to mulligan them all and just not draw?
That's what I think the
Because
same.
when you start with 3 to mulligan and you're like, well, I guess I'll keep this, and then like
Yeah.
suddenly Ragnaros is in your hand too, and you're like, oh.
It's like, oh, hi, Deathwing.
Crap.
I didn't expect to see you so soon. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
I think that's okay. I mean, I think that's fine. Because there are. I mean, it's not that there's one thing that makes turn 2 so strong. It's that they get so many of these little advantages, and it seems like it really adds up. Now, I've talked to Joshi from Blizzard, and he told me that internally they were seeing like even win rates between turn 1 and turn 2. It was like 51 to 49. And, but at the same time, I wonder how many of those people are playing as well as the top people on the ladder right now in Hearthstone. So I feel like that doesn't really apply. So it's...
Well, Blizzard does a good job of balancing a game to a point, because like the people in Blizzard are obviously very good gamers, but when you put it out to the people that actually like literally just have played games for 20 years straight and sit on their computers all day like me and Doa, and these other nerds and 100,000 other nerds in this world, like it's not quite enough. So it's fine. I mean, the game is actually pretty well balanced considering, right? Like
overall, I think it's really good right now. It's so like, polished for beta.
Yeah, it's not like you can't get wins off Rogue right now, and that's like for a patchless game, well, basically patchless game so far, that's like a really good job. But I mean, the coin thing, I'm really surprised that no one figured that one out. Like,
the
coin defiance is like the worst thing right now. I mean, the advantage is crazy. I think I averaged it out in my games, and I think it averages out to 2.5 cards plus 4 damage, I think, on that one single card play. It's ridiculous.
No, I mean, there's other ways that people can kind of take advantage of that turn 2 as well. Like, I've got a Paladin deck that I feel like even when I play my Murloc, that's a 2-1 and a 1-1 on first turn, I feel like that's still even a little bit hard to deal with. Or my favorite turn ever when I use my token deck is I get the coin and I get to play 2 Leper Gnomes on the first turn. It rarely happens, but there are other occasions, where you can get these kind of ridiculous starts with the coin too. So it's not just Rogue too. It's kind of like the coin overall. But hopefully they do change that.
And a lot of people think about it like, oh well, you're going to be able to shut down the aggression or even be more aggressive with the coin. But like LS and myself have played a ton of custom games now, and we both play control-based decks almost all the time. Yep. And we literally sit there and laugh at whoever gets the coin because they win like 70% plus. Like,
especially with
our
control.
Record is within 2 games of each other, and it's almost not every time, but like very often. If you get the coin, it's like it's not just the coin, but it's the extra 1 card in control versus control to start, and like. The other guy is almost like, well, do you start playing the kind of tempo-y, like try to put pressure on the other control deck, and then it's definitely my win percentages are way higher with the coin, especially in control versus control.
Yep.
I feel much more comfortable. I mean, if I'm on the ladder and I go up against a rogue and he gets turn 2, I'm like, well, crossing my fingers, hope I draw really, really well, and he draws really, really bad from here on out. Yeah, usually doesn't work.
I mean, you just know you're just going to have to take that damage. You have to start out with just being behind because that Defias, that 2-3 is strong by itself. The Defias ringleader is 2-3, but on top of that, you have 2-1, and it's just like.
Well, that's the funniest one. That's
ridiculous.
Defias ringleader is actually like. That is the card that just makes it so that you can't even argue about the coin being too good. Like, I can't imagine the poor rogue players have to play each other, and then one of them gets the coin and plays Defias, and it's like, oh, what do you even do?
I was playing around with that rogue deck in unranked, just to kind of get more familiar with it, and I played a rogue, and we both ended up doing, like, first turn. Well, he did second turn. Like, I put down the Defias, and then he got his second turn and put it down immediately, so it's like, everybody's throwing out the Defias guys right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with you were talking about the Murloc Tidehunter, right? At least with the Murloc, you could clear it with like fan.
Yeah, they're one health.
They're
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
1/1. I mean, you can clear that. So, but with Defiance, you can't clear it with a single card. Not even. I mean, it takes at least 2 cards.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe transition then, unless people have more to say about that, into decks right now. Like, what's the top of the ladder? Like, what are people playing? What are people winning with in tournaments and things like that? I posted on TL a couple days ago about I had like my rankings for what classes seem to
What
be
did
the
you think?
strongest right now. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I made the mistake of bringing that up before I brought up the TL thread, but let me do that real quick. I remember Rogue is on top, obviously, but I believe I
Yeah.
had Shaman and Hunter in second.
Rogue is like
Shaman.
tier 0, and then
Yeah, let me. Okay, so here's what I had anyway for that tier list from a couple days ago. Is I had 5 tiers. Tier 1 was Rogue. Tier 2 was Shaman and Hunter. Tier 3 Warlock, Druid, Mage. Tier 4 Priest, Paladin, and Tier 5 Warrior.
okay, I would actually change it slightly in my opinion. I would
What
put
do you think?
like tier 0, like the God deck is Rogue right
Yeah.
now. Then tier 1, I would definitely put Shaman, Hunter, and I might put Druid there, maybe. Like
I've seen,
maybe.
I've seen a really good Druid control deck that's out there right now, but that's the only Druid deck that I've really been like, oh, I'm kind of worried about playing against this.
The thing is, my deck matches up really well against Druid, but like I'm pretty sure Druid is one of the top ones, and then after that, it's like Warlock is a good deck, and Priest. There's actually some Priest decks that I haven't done it quite enough, like the Divine Shield Priest. LS and me were messing around with last night,
and Paladin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Divine
I'm
Shield
sorry.
Paladin.
Oh, with that
Priest
one.
is- Priest
with
is
that.
second to like. Priest might even be bottom tier, to be honest. Like at the very bottom of it,
yeah.
Warrior and Priest for me.
I've been wondering about that too. I'd love to put Priest a little bit ahead because I've lost to Priest once in a while, whereas like I
Well-
never lose to Warriors.
What's it?
Yeah.
What's the name of that?
Priests are
card?
so
Auchenrai?
gimmicky.
Auchenrai
Yeah,
something. It's like
The legendary card.
changes,
Yeah,
yeah, she changes.
something like that.
My
That
Hearthstone
thing
client
plus
just went
greater
down. So.
heal. Like that combo's hilarious because that can just kill you sometimes. But other than that, man, like, hold on. Let's just hear from LS and Chan, man. What do you guys think as far as?
My tiers are tier 0 is Rogue because there's just no arguing it. The Rogue can even come back from bad hands versus other like decks good hands. Like that's just like kind of silly. And then they have so much draw potential, and if you don't actually finish them, they can elect to burn you or overrun you, which is also kind of weird. Tier 1, Shaman, Hunter, Druid. Because if Shamans played correctly, they can handle every kind of deck. They can fight against control, they can fight against tempo, they can fight against aggro. You know, they can fight against everything. Druid has the best AoE clear in the game, and they also have the best late game out of any deck that like can go up against Rogue or something because they have such heavy drops that are so cost efficient. You know, in comparison to their mana cost. Hunter is just kind of self-explanatory. Like it's been up there with Rogue, and at one point it was Hunter or Rogue almost every single game in the high like Masters.
Hunter's just got really strong natural synergy with
Yeah,
just the
they
cards
have
that
such-
Blizzard gave it.
That's my main. Yeah.
Yeah. Tier 2, Warlock Paladin. You know, they're kind of like neck and neck. They're not like anywhere near tier 1 or tier 0, but they can compete sort of. It's not like Priest and Warrior. And then tier 3 Priest, tier 4 Warrior. I
What about
mean,
Mage?
Warrior. Mage is tier 1. Yeah, like the Frost Mage,
Oh.
the Stall Mage.
Oh, Frost Mage is pretty neat, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
that can
that's-
actually be a
It's
pain in the
tier
ass.
1. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Huh.
actually it gives me a harder time than a lot of decks, but
It
I mean-
can be really good, but because I've played a ton of delay, Frost Mage games up in Masters too, and it's I feel like it's good, but I feel like it still does suffer to really aggressive beatdown decks because it's supposed to control that kind of thing, but even still, if they get too quick of a start, you can just like lose too much health that you can't keep up throughout the late game. You have to. I feel like with that kind of deck, you have to have a pretty good draw, and I can win like about half my games up there. But
Yeah.
generally, like good aggressive decks have like a half and half chance to beat me if their draw is better than my draw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
and they get the coins.
Let's see.
Yeah,
So
they get the
for
point.
let's see, for me, I think the rogue's on top right now. A lot of it has to do with the device opening, honestly, but the versatility in it with the low mana count, and a lot of things that are used, I think does edge it out. I really like I think the hunter's really strong. I think the shaman's right up there with the hunter, so I guess I'd put them in tier 1, just like you guys right now. I play the hunter as my main, so the hunter I think just consistent. It's just solid from the standpoint of clearing.
Do you play Beast Hunter?
I play Beast Hunter with a ton of DD too. So and with board clearing, just with explosive shots and with the multi shots. So it's super consistent because like I could draw like crap in the beginning and get like overrun by a token deck or even like a Murloc deck or something, and I can just clear it at least by round 5. I know it'll be gone, and hopefully I have a card advantage at that point. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it's really, really consistent. Shaman has the ability just to run. Like if you draw right with the Shaman, it's just ridiculous. Like how bad a Shaman will run you over. And then like even if they don't.
Oh, I was gonna say I feel like it's okay. You can finish. It's fine.
No, that sounded like Bloodlust. That's exactly why I'd like the Shaman deck. No, but okay, so that's tier 1 for me. Tier 2 would be, I think tier 2 would be Druid. And I think Druid could be tier 1. I just haven't played enough of it to really, really, really map it out. But I think Druid, Mage, and Warlock right now. No, Druid, Paladin, and Mage right now. And I think Warlock is a step below that. And then at the bottom for me is Priest and Warrior. I haven't really figured out the Warlock very well. I don't know. Maybe I'm undervaluing the Warlock. But I feel like the Warlock's so gimmicky that I have it even further down. The most gimmicky for me is the Priest, but Warlock, I don't know. I just feel like I just take too much. I feel like I take way too much damage as a Warlock to be able to burn them fast enough or play any kind of control. You can't play a control game with the Warlock, can you?
LS, you play a lot of Warlock. What do you think?
Can you?
I have like the most Warlock games played in the world. I only play control Warlock. I mean, the way that you have to look at it is, let's say that you life tap like 3 times early on. And you just surrender board advantage because you have either a stalled Hellfire or like Twilight Drakes because you can life tap into them faster. You can essentially have 1/3 of your deck by turn 4 if you just life tap, life tap, life tap. And the chances of having Hellfire or Twilight Drake there while also possibly having a coin in hand for like Mortal Coil, which just reshuffles your hand and possibly kills a creature that's like, one durability. 20 mana, 20 life remaining is nothing if you're able to wipe their board for something and then drop to 17. And then in synergy with like Molten Giant, which is one of the cards inside of the game, Warlock can fall really, really low. And additionally, they have a draw engine that the other like decks just can't compete with, and it's only 2 life. So when you play at control with mass AoE board clear and spell power, which is like a really broken mechanic in the game, and then you have the fallback of Lord Jaraxxus and also the Molten Giants that can hit the field and kind of protect you until you draw into Jaraxxus or something. You just have to like be comfortable playing, 15 to 5 HP, and as long as you like understand control and like know that that's how it's gonna go, and like that is your goal, then it's fine. But I think if you're gonna play aggro Warlock and you try to abuse life tap to swarm the field, it's not gonna work. But maybe tempo can work, but I've never played it. I've only played control.
Yeah, I mean, the Warlock...
The best part of playing Warlock is just like getting Jaraxxus and then spamming mistake over and over again at people.
Yeah, like Monte Cristo.
It's the best part. Absolutely.
Ellis, what do you do against folks that don't spam, they don't spam a bunch of units. They just play one strong unit at a time against the Warlock?
You have Siphon Soul. You have 4 taunts and Corruption. A lot of people, they say Corruption's a bad card, but like, there's hidden text on every card, and I've talked about this like numerous times on the stream and other stuff. If you change the text of Corruption to, let's say that the creature you want to kill is 5 damage, right? 5 attack. Change the text of Corruption to 1 mana, take 5 life, destroy target creature. If you're not at 10 HP or something, you're like at 20, 24, 20, something, you're gonna do that 100% of the time. Pay 5 life, kill a creature. Like, that's completely fine. So if you have a taunt out, if you drop a taunt with Corruption, you're killing one of their biggest creatures for just stall mechanics until you get like your win conditions, and that's just how control functions.
Yeah.
You have Siphon Souls, you have Corruptions, you have Soul Fires with synergy life taps to pay for the Soul Fires. I think it's fine. But I think, yeah, like Rogue or like Zoo decks give it a problem, but yeah.
I think Paladin is a real problem for Warlock. I got to Masters 2 with a Paladin token deck. Oh, I got to Masters 1 with a Divine Shield Paladin deck, and then Masters 2 with a token deck. And it just seems like Warlock, between the damage that they do themselves and then the damage that I put on them early, it just adds up to a little bit too much. And like sometimes they could stall out the game a little bit with your Axis, but usually I can just burn them down quickly. Like, is that what you're seeing a lot with most aggro decks?
Yeah,
Versus
well,
your
I think
Warlock stuff?
your Paladin deck is Zoo, I think. I don't think it's normal aggro. I think it's like Zoo because like your
Yeah.
Divine, yeah. I think
It's
Zoo
not Divine
just
Shield anymore. That's a
no,
past
just,
iteration.
yeah. Yeah, the Zoo aspect of it is too much, I think, for the Warlock. I think like you would need side decking to be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Tokens
yeah.
are really strong right now overall.
Tokens
Let's talk about that.
yeah.
Like
Token-
the token cards. Does anyone feel like tokens are a little bit too strong, or do you think it's an okay considering the amount of other board clear? Because it is a very efficient board clear kind of game too. But how does everybody feel about token cards?
With like the inclusion of a lot of board clear and taunts, I think it's like good that the tokens are so good, because if they weren't, the game would be too slow. Like you need to have like ridiculously good aggressive options, or the game will actually get stagnant too quickly. So I'm actually totally happy with that. Like I like the battle of like, oh my god, he got 5 things out this turn. Okay, what do I do? And
my favorite
then you have
kind
to
of
really
turn.
think and like bend your deck in a way you didn't know it could go to try to deal with it till the next turn. And I like it. I don't think there's any problem with it, except for Defias and the coin. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the token decks because it just adds a ton of variety, like to the games we play, because there's those games where I have to go down to 12 and 10 like in round 5, and then just clear the board and then take control from there, and those are some of the most exciting games. I think the token with the Sword of Justice, Doa, you've been playing, right, the Paladin, right?
Yeah.
That synergy is crazy good, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, because when you're putting out potentially like 4 to 5 creatures each turn, and they all get like +1/+1 from that sword, and then with that deck, I usually get like the Sea Giants down on like turn 5 or 6 too, and then if I have the sword out for that, suddenly it's like a 9/9 for 3 mana, and it can be really overwhelming. I find that deck, well, it dies to rogues like every other deck, but the only other deck it really kind of has issues with are sometimes that mage, like Icy Manipulator, just like delay kind of deck. Sometimes it can't get through there, but usually it's like half and half. And the other one is actually priest decks sometimes give it a problem because they've got enough sustain, they've got enough healing, and then big drops later on with buffing the health and then making the attack the health, that sometimes they can kind of get through that too. But overall, yeah, I think that the Paladin token deck is definitely the strongest Paladin deck I've seen, and easily good enough to like hold its own in like high masters.
Yeah.
The thing I like most about token decks is that it's very consistent, because you're drawing you're adding so many tokens into your deck that there's a good shot that you're going to get a decent starting 4 or starting 6 cards.
Yeah.
Versus
it eliminates
versus
a lot of it eliminates a lot of inconsistency, and I feel like if you want to play competitively, your deck has to be super consistent. You have to be able to play like as close to the same game every game as you can.
Well, I know we're talking about tokens, but I actually want to jump over and talk about the priest a bit, because I had such a bad day with it yesterday. There's like a problem with the priest itself, with its hero ability, because every hero ability, aside from the priest, is usable early game.
No,
which
not
makes,
warrior.
Yeah, it is. You can just stack armor.
You can
You can
stack
actually... I literally can't cast my priest ability early game Last Shadow. I mean, come on.
True.
Let's be real here. Everything is usable. Of course, the Warriors isn't that great, but I would much rather have that, be able to stack my life gain or something. So I feel like that's a huge problem with the priest right now, because like so many games yesterday, I would sit there, right, and like, whether I go first or second, I'm waiting for them to do things and trying to react. So you're always behind, because any other deck, right, you're like getting some armor and attack, or making a dagger and charging it up so you can actually kill some of their stuff that comes out, or You know, you're drawing cards or you're making totems, and you're basically you're gaining some sort of advantage. You're doing something. You're interacting with the game. Whereas priests, you sit there and you're like, all right. And then later on, when they start doing damage, is when you can finally start casting decent spells, and then you can't even afford it anyways. It's like,
yeah, turn 2 is like the worst turn
two.
for a priest. Sometimes.
it's god awful. It's and the thing is, what am I supposed to do? Play a weenie deck? How does that work with life gain? Like that isn't synergistic at all. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not.
This is interesting. Zizba in chat says maybe priest needs to be able to heal to 40 hit points. Needs to be able to like exceed 30. And I'm like, that's actually kind of interesting. I mean,
why not?
like at the
why not? Would
on
that
the same
really,
token.
I mean, if I think that would add. That's actually a great idea, because imagine if you could do that. If you could heal up to 40 with priest, like you could actually have decks that are based around healing quite a bit. You know, like not based around, but like that could be like an archetype where you know you're actually doing things like playing spells that actually gain you health, and you're actually using those early turns, and your opponent's like, oh shit, he's already at 36. Like this is going to take a while. That's a good idea.
The only issue I would have with that is that really puts the warrior ability behind, because essentially the warrior ability can go above 30 health, right, with armor, and it can heal 2 health with armor.
That's
but
true.
It can only do it to himself, whereas priest can put
point.
2 health onto anything. So if we do that, then suddenly warrior's ability is just like a bad version of the priest's ability, which it almost is already, except that you can go above 30 health.
But the warrior can fight. Like he has equips. Priest doesn't have equip.
That's
a good point. All right.
I mean, one reason that they may have done it this way is that when you go shadow form, I feel like the priest's ability is probably the best ability. The damage, having the versatility of hitting the hero and hitting minions. So I think maybe because of that, maybe they're expecting priest to always go shadow form at some point, and to balance it off, that it's kind of useless in the first 2 rounds.
Well,
basically.
let's just get this out here too. Like shadow form, there aren't enough cards dealing with it to make it a worthwhile deck choice for priest, because it's just not consistent enough. Like I think right now too, one of the things we have to consider is that this is just the very first set for Hearthstone. So that means that there's going to be a lot of cool deck ideas that you have that you can't really do because there's not enough cards that enable that. And I think Shadow Priests are definitely one of them. You can make a Shadow Priest deck right now, but you can't get the Shadow Priest cards out consistently enough to call it a Shadow Priest deck. But once that becomes possible, then yeah, I think Shadow Priest changing that ability into 2 damage is going to be so strong. But yeah, at the end of the day, the warrior's still left in the dust.
That is true.
That's true.
That's true.
Well, let's talk about warrior then.
What about all
That's what I want to do. I was really excited about warrior when I saw the cards. I'm like, oh, sick! I like damage my own minions, and then I can buff them and stuff. That sounds really fun. But in practice, it just doesn't work. But let's talk about the warrior and the warrior ability. Like maybe could we see a change where it's 3 armor instead of 2? Is that too strong possibly, or maybe just more cards that the warrior has that gives the warrior armor beyond its hero ability? Because I think a big part of what Blizzard was going for when I look at this is they wanted it to be like the warrior's kind of like a big constantly attacking minion as well, where you're the one attacking, and so you want to get a lot of armor to protect yourself when you do that, but you can't quite gain enough armor to do that effectively right now. So is the answer to just give your hero more armor, or what do you do? How do you fix warrior?
I think that's kind of a neat idea. I want to throw out that right before we went live, I just randomly saw this little article on Enrage Combo Kill Masters League Warrior deck. Here, I'll link you guys here, and I'll link to the chat as well.
I saw that.
There's one that does like
that
32 on turn 8, I think it is. Save up a bunch of stuff,
This is pretty cool. Like I'm actually later today going to make this deck and ladder with it a little bit and see how it goes. But like maybe warrior is just like a class that we haven't had enough of the decks of yet. Like every now and then I'll see a warrior on the ladder, but it's like so little that I think people kind of gave up on it really quickly, because you look at it and you're like, well, 2 armor, that doesn't really matter, and it's mostly just minions, and there's so much board clearance stuff. But there's some cool stuff in it with all their charge and enrage and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've played against that deck, the deck that you linked. I've played it against it a lot of times on the ladder, and I can't speak for other decks, but with my paladin deck, I just kill it way too fast.
Yeah.
Like they just
Same.
don't live
They have
long enough to
magic.
get the combo out. Because if it's
I
the deck
don't-
I'm thinking of, you have to get to like turn 8, and then if you have the proper cards in hand, which you usually do, then
Okay.
you can swing for 32. I believe is the number if I remember right.
Right,
You use
right.
the Worgen that gets Wind Fury when it gets damaged, and you buff it a
Yep.
crazy ton and all that, and give it charge.
Mm.
And
Right.
yeah, so I think it's a really cool thing. But it's totally like a Johnny kind of deck where it's like, look at this cool combo, but you know, it's not.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
It's fun, but it's never going to be like competitive. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this warrior all in. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't think any of you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh. There was a deck called Demise OTK, and basically, well, OTK, if you're new to CCGs or TCGs, whatever, it stands for one turn kill. And basically, there was a deck like this in Yu-Gi-Oh, and everyone played it for a short while, but eventually cards came out that just like negated it. And already in Hearthstone, there's just cards that outright negate this. Either like if you have too many taunts on the field, or you just zoo it down and just kill it. This doesn't actually have a very solid, consistent way, and that's one of the problems with it. Is there's no consistency. You can't consistently reach the OTK. Like Doa was just saying, he just zoos it down too fast.
Yeah, there was the really good warrior deck I saw, because I saw one really good warrior deck, and I wish I would have been paying attention better, because usually when I see a good deck, I immediately go into Deck Builder and just build it and try to remember everything they used.
Yeah.
Right.
But I didn't, because I was so surprised this deck was so good. But like it was like a warrior enraged deck, but it used a lot of neutral cards that I hadn't seen used in Warriors before. A lot of he was using stuff like what's it called, Mad Bomber. I need to get better with the card names, but you know the guy who does
Oh yeah.
Mad
The
He,
random
like,
of random
explodes
cards.
I think it's called Mad Bomber.
Mad Bomber. Yeah, it is Mad Bomber. Deal 3 damage, randomly split between all other characters. So
Yeah.
you know he would use that to get enraged guys very early on, and then a lot of buffing, a lot of other typical warrior stuff, but. The way that it was done in that deck was very smooth, and it seemed very effective. So I'm like, maybe there is some hope to this warrior thing yet. But I think there's like little flashes of brilliance here and there in the warrior community. But overall, it's just a little bit underpowered and very difficult class to play right now.
What if?
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Wait, I was gonna say I think the warrior class would improve quite a bit if they just had maybe 2 brawls or just a better board clearing ability. Because right now there's only 1 brawl, and it's not even that great of a board clearing ability. And that's usually the biggest issue with the warrior right now, is that they just take too much damage. I mean, early, like the first 6-7 rounds, they take way too much damage, and they can't do anything about it too. So if they get zooed or anything like that, there's no looking back, right? I mean, they can't turn that around, and that's the biggest issue.
The warrior deck that I've had the most luck with, because I love warrior. It's like I've played a warrior in World of Warcraft for 8 years. Like I'm totally like a warrior fan as far as the class goes. So I really was trying to make it work early on. And the best, like most consistent thing I came up with was an equipment oriented deck. And it seemed good, and it was oriented around a lot of making the warrior like your big minion to attack with over and over again. But it just ran back into that problem where you just can't get enough armor to stay alive long enough, So it worked okay, but I don't know. Warrior's in a tough spot. Yeah.
Weapons are cool, but you take damage every time you use them. That's unless you're a druid. Druids actually gain armor, with their abilities, so they don't actually take damage.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe if you do get more armor, like, would it be significant to make that 2 mana into 3 armor for the hero ability?
I think it would be good. I think it would help a lot, actually, because
that's still a lot of mana for the early game to actually use that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe on turn 2 it's fine, but I feel like you'll have a lot of 2-drops in most warrior decks anyways. So I'm like,
I'd love to see them try 3 armor, because I feel like that opens up the door a lot more for all these equipment-based decks, and I mean, there's so many cards that, like, give your hero +4 attack this turn. They want you to attack with your warrior, but I just feel like you need more armor to do that consistently. So I'd love to see it go to 3 armor. I'd love to play around with that and see if it really does open up a lot of these sort of more warrior-centric, big beefy hero doing damage kind of decks.
Warrior, it does have one of the most cost-efficient cards in the game. I'm trying to like find it right now.
Which one?
It's like
The
the
Arathi Weaponsmith. Yeah, it's a good card.
If you
What
can
is it?
coin into that,
Wait, what's the card?
Arathi
I'll type it.
Weaponsmith.
Arathi Weaponsmith?
Yeah, or
Yeah, right
Battlesmith.
there. No, Weaponsmith. It's the one that equips
Weaponsmith?
2/2.
Okay.
Yeah, 2/2.
Yeah,
weapon.
Arathi.
If you
What's a
can
3/3?
coin that turn 2, that's like actually I think more broken than Defias Ringleader. Like just
Really?
maybe. Well, I mean you get a 3/3
well,
and a 2/2 equip.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a 4 mana cost spell though,
Or
so you
turn
have to
three,
do it on
turn
turn
3, yeah,
3.
turn 3,
Yeah.
turn 3. Yeah.
It is really strong. I mean, getting the 3/3 on turn 3 is okay. I've always avoided that card actually when I've been building warrior decks because equipping the 2/2 weapon can actually be a bit of a detriment because by turn 3 or 4 you should have a weapon at least in your hand that you're planning on equipping later, and everything is going to be better than a turn 2, or everything is going to be better than a 2/2 weapon.
2/2. Right,
So,
right.
because if you play that card, it will overwrite whatever weapon you have on the board. So I think in a lot of cases it would just become a
that's
dead
true.
card in your hand. So I'm actually not a big fan of that card. I actually don't like it.
What equip is better? Well, I mean you have Arcanite Reaper, but that's a turn 5 drop. You have is it Gorehowl?
Yeah,
Gorehowl,
Gorehowl's
yeah.
a 7/1.
Gorehowl's a 7. What equips are there that's better than his? I mean,
Then
I,
a
Fiery
2/2.
War-Axe. Fiery War-Axe at 2
Yep,
is
Fiery War Axe
Druid
is
thing
good
is
for
better than
3/2.
that.
the
Yeah,
Druid thing's
it's-
better than that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Okay.
so like literally every other warrior weapon is better than the 2/2 equip.
Well, that's why it comes on a battle cry. It's actually like the
Yeah.
worst weapon you can even imagine.
Yeah.
Like the paladin
Right.
thing, that's one with 4 durability. I like better than just a 2/2. Like
Yeah.
If
Well,
it was
it's
like
nice
an,
if you're behind.
just when you
you're-
start to get to know your weapon, it just runs out of durability and goes away. It's actually very sad.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean if it's the big issue with that card is that it's a 4 cost, right? So, again, even if you use the coin, you're going to get to the point where if you're running an equipped deck, you're going to have, something you already are using on your warrior or something
Oh,
that
right,
you want
right.
to put on your warrior at that point. So if you're not running an equipment deck, maybe it'd be a good, drop in there. But overall, I mean, maybe if it was like 3 for
Maybe.
3/3 plus a 2/2 weapon and they made it epic or something like that, then, that's
Yeah.
getting a little more appealing. But at 4
Yeah,
mana, I think
better.
it's a little bit too much.
They could use a savagery card because
Give
they have
all
so
your-
many weapons. The
Oh.
savagery,
Oh,
like the
savagery.
good card. Yeah,
Is that
Yeah.
wait? Which one does that?
it's the one where you sacrifice your or whatever your attack is, deal it to all the.
Oh yeah, like it kills your like
Or am I thinking of the rogue?
Rogue
one? There's
Catcher.
one
Oh, no,
that
you're thinking
of,
yeah, the one
Blade
you
Flurry.
sacrifice the weapon.
yeah.
Blade Flurry.
Yeah, that's
Blade
a rogue,
Flurry.
yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Blade
Yeah,
Flurry.
that's-
is the one
Rogue
you
has
sacrifice
everything they need already. Don't worry about Rogue. They're
Rogue,
fine.
yeah, Rogue
No, I'm
set.
saying like the warrior could use something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
The warrior
true.
could
I mean,
use any rogue cards available, please.
yeah. I like the style of cards that they've given warriors and rogues and all the classes. I mean, that's something that I really love about Hearthstone is I feel like the cards I'm playing when I'm playing a class feel like the type of things I should be playing when I'm playing that class,
Yeah.
right? Rogue cards feel like rogue cards. Hunter feels like hunter. Warrior does feel like warrior, even though maybe it's a little bit too strong. Another thing I was thinking of with warriors, maybe they could just up the health a little bit on a lot of their minions to make enrage a little bit more viable. Because right now, I think a lot of the warrior, without looking at it, just remembering the cards, I feel like a lot of the warrior creatures are like 3 health. And so by enraging them, they drop to a maximum of 2 health. And 2 health minions are vulnerable to so many different things in the game. Like it's like 3 and 4 health are the threshold for where a lot of clear doesn't work, right? So if you're 3 or 4 health, generally you're safe against most stuff. But if you drop down to 2, there's so much stuff that like it's 2 damage to this, 2 damage to this, right? And so by enraging, you make your creatures really vulnerable to a lot of basic clear stuff too. So
That's
I feel
so
like
true.
all the warrior creatures are just like 1 health too low right now.
Yeah.
What if your ability could give you 2 armor or your creature 2 armor? Kind of like the way the priest works.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But then it's just the priest thing, isn't it? Kind of.
It is, but you can go above the maximum health. So then it's like,
Sure. Yeah.
but then does that make the priest ability just like a bad warrior ability? I mean, like it's because it's really armor is effective health.
Kind of,
It's
yeah.
almost the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
armor essentially is health. So if you can give it to something that's gotten hurt, or you can give it to something that's got max health already, that actually makes it better than the priest ability.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know. But then maybe like I don't know. I don't know what you would do.
It's dangerous changing the hero power though. That's the like
It
trying to
is.
balance out this class just by changing the hero power because that's it.
Well-
Sometimes it's not the it doesn't seem like the warrior needs more than just one fix. I guess is what I'm trying to say, and I think giving it armor is. I don't know. I'm kind of biased a little bit because I played a warrior that ended up getting like 20 armor the other day. So
It
I can't
happens
imagine
every
if he
once
had-
in a while. It does.
Yeah, so I can imagine what happened if he had 3. But
You know,
Well,
I think we're moving.
I guess that would be 30 armor, huh?
into the Ohio.
yeah, okay, it'd be 30 armor. All right, yeah,
Okay.
jeez.
I think we're moving into a situation too where I think eventually, and I mean I'm just making a guess, but I think eventually Blizzard is going to want to release more characters, more heroes for each class. You're going to have choices of different hero abilities for each class, and I have no like evidence of that. I'm just assuming that that's a way they would want to go in the future, which I think would be cool. And so then, as more heroes come into play, as more card sets come into play, then maybe we'll get to a situation where someone will be like, oh, you know what? I want that. I want Garrosh with 2 armor, rather than this other warrior with this other hero ability. So in the future, it could still be good too. I mean, we're still dealing with the very first expansion. So I can understand where they would maybe want to leave things intentionally a little bit weaker here and there because of more stuff that's coming in the future too. But
That's true.
it's tough to say. I mean, and this is another question too. Is now that we have this card game that's 100% online, there's no physical cards or anything like that. They've got this opportunity where they can actually balance cards. Magic the Gathering could never do that.
Yeah.
You'd have to ban them
really
or
cool.
release
Very
different
true.
cards. So, how much does Blizzard really want to balance cards in terms of actually changing the text itself, changing the health and attack and all that stuff?
I think they'd probably be fine with it,
Yeah.
right?
That's
I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
why not? Because people, it's not like StarCraft where, well, these pros are faster than the lower level pros, so this is imbalanced here but not here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is actually it's just based how good are you at this card game? How good can you make your decisions? You have enough time to make them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they should go to full extent trying to balance everything right.
That would be good.
Mhm.
Well,
We might have just lost.
Okay.
Jim.
Yeah, there.
On
I'm
that,
back.
just
I'm
got-
back.
Oh, okay.
Back.
All right.
there we go, handsome guy. Well, let's actually take this opportunity to jump to a quick little commercial break, and guys, we'll be right back with plenty more Hearthstone talk. So don't go away. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of Turn 2, a podcast about Hearthstone. We're gonna go ahead and jump into a little bit different discussion now. We were just going over before the break about the hero powers, the tiers of the decks right now as we see it and whatnot. But something that we probably should have done at the beginning of the show is talk about the decks that we play. So we want to kind of go over that right now, where we are in the game, what decks we play, our favorite cards, stuff like that. So, all right, who do we start with? Who wants to grab this? Grab the bull by the horns.
I'll go. It's okay.
All right, do it.
All right. Right now, although I'm making a transition at the moment, but my favorite deck is still my Paladin token deck at the moment. It's just super aggro. I can get out a lot of creatures really quickly. I feel like it's good versus board clear because if they clear everything out, if it's like turn 5 or 6, I can usually put down 2 token cards so I can have 4 creatures back on the board immediately after I lose everything potentially. Combining that with Sword of the Divine, which gives everything I spawn a +1/+1 token. It makes it very, very cost efficient. So I am a huge, huge fan of it. I do think that it lacks a little bit in the control category, where if I get behind it all, I don't really have a good way to come back, and that's why I'm sort of transitioning into Shaman token because I feel like maybe there's a bit more there. But for now, Paladin absolutely still my favorite deck, and my favorite card is definitely Leper Gnome. Leper Gnome is easily one of the best cards in the game. It's actually one of the most cost-efficient damage-dealing cards in the game. If you play it first turn and you get an attack with it second turn, if they don't deal with it immediately, suddenly that's 1 mana for 4 damage. In case you don't know, Leper Gnome is a 2/1 for 1. When it dies, it does 2 damage to the opposing hero. So if you can attack with it once, suddenly that's 4 damage for 1. And if you attack with it twice, it's 6 damage for 1. Leper Gnomes are so, so good. It seems like no matter what deck I make, I always put 2 Leper Gnomes in it. because they're awesome. So I love the leper gnome. That's it for me.
Cool.
All right.
And just to point out, Doa is High
Yes.
Masters as well on the
right.
server. So good player.
I am, yes.
Yes, you are, Toa.
I beat Nick's Warlock deck a lot. It's okay.
I can go next if you want.
All right, go for it.
So I'm playing a hunter. I don't even know how to describe it. Hunter control deck, I guess, if I were to pick a word to describe it. And I'm a master 3-star with it, and I really like it because I feel like it's super consistent whether I get a good draw or not. I can always come back, and it kind of starts off with it starts off a little bit slow. I usually throw down the croc. The croc is probably my strongest for first turn play. With the coin, it's first turn play, and that croc buys me a lot of time. And with the hero's damage to, like the direct damage to the hero, I feel like getting that first anywhere from 6 to 10. Like if I can get 6 to 10 damage in like 5, like by turn 4, then I almost always win because I have a large amount of burn at the end of the game. Because I usually run King Crush at the end. So as long as I control the middle of the game with just all the deadly shots and explosive shots and multi-shots and even explosive traps, whatever, I think. But by end game, I can do like 20 damage in 2 rounds. That sort of output, and it generally works really really well for me. That's why like against warlocks and stuff, when I was talking to you Nick about it earlier, is that I just burn them so fast at the end, even with taunt because I carry an owl and I don't use the owl for anything else. And the hyena and the buzzard, those are all just decoys, honestly. Like because they don't usually end up amounting to anything. Even the Savannah Highmane is a little bit of a decoy for me. But yeah, so I play more of a beast kind of deck, and let's see, my favorite unit. Favorite unit in my deck is the Kodo. I just love that. I love killing Berserker with my Kodo. It's like the most gratifying feeling ever. But overall,
So wait. All right, I have to say this right now. So to you, and this blows my mind actually. The crocodile is not as good as a first turn starving buzzard.
So I was running the starving buzzard for a while. I still do it. I do it against the. God, I do it against one of the classes. Maybe mage. I think I do it against the mage. But generally I don't because a lot of the classes have an ability. Like they usually have a card that just does 2 damage, whether it's like backstab or it's arcane shot or smite. I mean, it just dies so quickly that I'd rather just pair it with another card later, like another animal later, to guarantee a card instead of the chance of me getting like 3 cards or 2 or 3 cards, which doesn't happen that often, honestly. So I kind of went away from that. If I draw really really bad, then sometimes I'll just bite the bullet and do it. But
Bite the buzzard.
Bite the buzzard, exactly.
Okay.
But the animal companion is such a random card sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh god,
Yeah,
that is.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's so good, and then sometimes it's
like I just want the hog like every time. Like a lot of people want the Misha, but I want the hog every time. And
4-2 a charge, man. That's the best.
pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's charge for 3?
Yeah. So, anyways, that's my hunter deck. Lots of DD and controlling ability.
It's good.
All right.
I think do you want me to go down?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm Masters 3 right now. I'm playing like 5 decks at once right now, and the reason is because when Hearthstone came out, I played I think I have like 700 games played as Warlock at Masters 3. So like I just like only played Warlock, but now I'm like playing like 5 decks, and that's mostly because of you, Dan. Like me and you just like talking about like, is this deck better? Is this deck good? Is this deck good? So I'm like playing Shaman control, Warlock control, Druid control, Priest control, and now I just like started deviating into what I might like start to make my main, which is like a Divine Shield Zoo Paladin. But I'm not like too sure about that, so I'm just gonna like keep toying around with stuff. I don't know. I mean that's all that I'm doing right now. I feel like my Warlock deck, I have it like solved, like as far as understanding, but I mean obviously I can like take cards in and out. As far as like 2 of my favorite cards, well, one of the cards that I think is like the best in the game is Iron Beak Owl. Like he's just
pretty good.
like he's so like
Pretty awesome, yeah.
yeah, he's like a big FU to a lot of things. And then Ragnaros, the Fire Lord.
Kill with that
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
You sold
he's
me
like-
on him, dude.
Get him out.
I
If you can get him out, he's so good.
That's
Yeah.
my next. Yeah, I don't have him yet. I need to.
You gotta
purchase him
craft
next.
that guy, man. Ragnaros
Yeah.
goes in every deck almost. Like,
I mean,
He's
have
so
you ever
good.
had him hit the wrong guy though? I mean, I know he's
Yeah.
8 every time, but
it's you know what? Just 8 damage anywhere is pretty good. My favorite
Yeah.
thing
I mean,
is when
that's
they
why I
use
like
Iron
Crush.
Decal on him because then I just
Then he
attack.
attacks.
He's just an 8/8,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean that's why I like King Crush so much because it's an instant 8, like no matter what you do.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
What?
So.
So okay, so those are your 2 favorite cards. You cheated by giving
That's it,
2.
man. Well, I said what I think is the best, like in
okay.
terms of just like raw cost efficiency, like in any deck. And then
Iron
my
Beak?
favorite. Yeah, I
You
think
think
Iron Beak
is better than Thalnos?
If you're not
That's
running
tough.
spell power, if you're not running spell power,
Okay, but that's almost no
Well.
decks. That's only priests that we're talking about now.
that's true. That's that's true.
Thalnos is pretty awesome though.
Thalnos
Thalnos
is
is
really
really good.
badass.
He'd probably be my second favorite, actually. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know Thalnos, it's a legendary card that's what 1/1 and +1 spell. What else
Draw
is it?
card, death rattle.
Yeah, draw
Yep.
a card. Oh gosh,
Super good.
Super good. Budget legendary.
it's the Drake at 1, basically.
It's, yeah.
Mm.
Actually, there you go. It's Azure Drake's little brother, who's actually even better. So, okay, for me, I've been playing Shaman since the day it started. I'm Masters 3 with it, and I'm playing like a control version. Like I don't play Bloodlust, and I don't play like a lot of things other Shaman decks
Right.
play. It's like all like a lot of board clear, like all the lightning, any card that says lightning in it, except for the one that does 5 damage. I use all those, and like I don't know. It's like a super control deck. I draw so many cards with it, and like a lot of my games don't end until either they give up out of despair because my hand is always full, or you know it ends with like 2 cards left in the deck. So yeah, I've been playing that a lot. I like chose it because when I got my first booster packs, I was opening them and I saw Mana Tide Totem. That card. I saw it.
That
I'm like,
card
oh,
Card is awesome.
I was actually
Ridiculous
streaming. I'm
card.
like, well, I guess I'm making a Shaman deck. So, Mana Tide Totem, definitely my favorite card. It's like actually really, it's so interesting because you can play it so many different ways. Like, if you really know what's in their deck and stuff, you can be like, all right, what level is this on the threat meter? What types of spells do they have open right now? What are they trying to do this turn? Do I play it now? Do I play it later? Sometimes you play it early to buy yourself a turn and just use it as a cantrip to pick up an extra card at the end of your turn. And sometimes you play it like in the mid game, you just sneak it in. You like choose like, well, you know, I have 7 mana and I'm going to go ahead and play my 4-drop in this guy, like the Shield Nasta and the Totem, and then he'll probably get 2 turns of draws. Or sometimes you play him late game, and he's like the Mana Tide Totem can be like a finisher. It's like such a sick card.
He's actually
That's-
hard to deal with too because it's
Oh,
3
it's
health.
3.
Like
It's a 3
health
health, yeah.
makes it really tough to actually handle unless you focus a lot to it. Yeah.
It just
It's,
feels like a waste of a frostbolt or something that does 3 damage, right? So it's
You have to deal with it so
You have to
fast,
do it,
It's- yeah, it has to get killed immediately.
When people don't kill Mana Tide right away, and that's the beautiful thing, because if they don't kill it right away, it's awesome, and then you can play it to force them to kill it right away. It's like the
Yeah.
card is actually there's like so much to playing the card. I feel like I'm good at playing the card, but I feel like I'm getting better and better. Like every like 20 games I play or so, I'm like, oh, I understand even better when to play this card now. So that's a cool one. I love cards that are like actually kind of hard to decide what to do with.
Mhm.
And the other card that I really like is Bloodforged Axe. That's the name of it, right? Bloodforged Axe.
Stormforge?
The shaman weapon?
Stormforged Axe.
You're talking about the hammer, the storm.
We're
Stormforged
talking
Axe.
about the shaman equipped Stormforged War Axe, I'm pretty sure.
That card can be so awesome, like in Shaman mirrors and stuff. Oh god, that card has done so much for me. But other than Shaman,
Yeah.
I have been
Stormforged
playing.
Axe.
I've been working with LS on his priest deck a little bit, his priest control, which is really cool. I think that as much as shit as we gave priest, if you know you're playing against a control deck, priest control I think beats any control deck. Like any slow paced control deck, can't beat priest control. Like
Because of the healing, you're saying?
no,
Or
not
what?
the healing. It's like it's like
The
8
mind
plus spells, like
controls.
mind controls. and
Yeah,
stuff.
Mind
it
controls.
steals their win
Less.
I haven't
condition,
messed
yeah.
around with that at all yet, actually.
It's so good in like the end game, but getting to the end game is a pain in the ass. So I've been playing that, and I'll probably be toying around with Warrior some, just for the hell of it. I don't know. I normally try to play like the weak race in any game I'm playing, but because it's like more fun, it's like that underdog thing. But I guess Shaman's good. I chose it on the first day. I had no idea. Oops. So yeah, that's the deck that I'm mostly playing right now.
What do you think of the Wind Fury play as Shaman?
I don't like it. I don't use the only
Or
Wind
Dust
Fury I
Devil?
have
Dust
is
Devil. Sorry,
Al-
Dust Devil. Yeah.
No, I don't like it. I don't like aggressive Shaman. And I know that everyone's playing aggressive Shaman with like Bloodlust and stuff,
Yeah.
but for me, like, I don't know. It's not that it's bad, but I prefer control. Like, I think, well, I mean, you can see it in my StarCraft play. For anyone who's a StarCraft guy, I'm a defensive player, as LS calls me Captain Careful. So
Captain Careful,
like,
man.
I like to take control, I guess. Not
Well,
a
Dust
not a
Devil
big
is-
fan of all those. No.
Dust Devil is such a huge risk. That's why I never put it in the deck, because it's a 1 for 3/1, but it's got Overload too, and there's so many easy ways. Like if you're playing against a mage, well, I'll just use their hero ability and kill it. Like there's certain classes that you literally can't play it against, and there's most classes that you just wouldn't want to play it against. So I think it's a pretty terrible card, honestly.
I don't like
It's
it.
it's the one card
Yeah.
you actually hope you go first.
No.
Yeah, well, even if you do, it doesn't matter if you go first, because they'll just kill it right away. Like, yeah,
Well, that's true, because the person
here's
has
the
a
thing.
coin, right? Yeah, they have a
If
coin.
you-
That's true. Yeah.
You can play it first turn against priests because sure they can smite it, but you already know they have nothing on turn 2 with that spell. Its
yeah,
powers.
priests you can kind of do it, but then you have nothing on turn 2 as well.
That's
because
true.
of
It
Overload.
makes it
Yeah,
even.
that's you basically, because essentially what that card is saying is it's you pay 1 for the 3/3, but it also has like LS
Skip your
likes to
next
talk
turn.
about the hidden effects. Yeah, skip your next turn.
Yep.
That's actually what that card should say,
And-
is skip your next turn.
It is what it should say. But
True.
another thing I actually really like about Shaman, by the way, is Overload is like one of the most interesting mechanics. Getting like more power and paying for it over turns, because it makes like when you're trying to play like a more control style, it's like really hard to. You have to like calculate so much with what to play. So it's like it's
I
a
like
nice
it too.
challenge.
It's
It's
a good point.
Yeah.
in a couple days I'll write up my deck list again, because I wrote an article before, like on scdojo.com I think, but it's changed. So many cards have changed since then. It's like way better now. But I'll do that for people someday.
What do you think of the randomness of the hero power?
You can like minimize it pretty well. The only time I get pissed at it is when I'm playing against Warrior, and this actually happens all the time. I'm playing against Warrior, and I do the hero power, and I get the Searing Totem, and then they attack into it and get enraged, and then they have like Enraged Wind Fury or something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like any other totem, I'm in great shape. So that if that guy could just be a 0/1 that does nothing, I'd probably like him more, because he actually is.
Right.
He's done a
Has
lot of
any-
bad things for me.
Has anyone like done any research on if it can be controlled? The totem, like not controlled, but you can lower the, like that you can't get this one. You know how like
Well,
if you
if you have one totem out, you can't get a second one of
Yeah.
that totem. That's
right,
the only way.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I
you have
didn't actually
times
know
where
that.
like
I've
yeah.
never seen, like, if I play a totem, like if I play it and I get Searing Totem, then you kill it, and I play it again, I've never gotten the same totem the second time. I don't know if that's in the code
I've
or
seen
something.
it happen. I've seen that
Okay, it
happen.
does happen.
That's why I'm
It does
asking.
happen, yeah.
I haven't
Oh,
had
it
I
does
don't-
happen. Okay.
I wonder if there's a
The only-
code that generates that.
The
Well,
only
there's-
possible
there
way
is.
that I think there is right now to control which totem spawns is to already have the other totems out.
Right.
So if you
yeah,
have
like-
Searing Totem, you're not going to get a second time. But I think that's it. Otherwise, I think it's random.
A lot of the games, I like really like push totems out as much as possible, because if you can have like 2 totems out, then you can set things up with totems where you're like, well, I have 50% chance for this totem, and then like even if you can get that other totem out and you have a taunt out, then like just by keeping a lot of totems on the board, you up your percentages to get the ones that you want. So
Yeah.
Well, when you
Especially-
do the totem, you're pretty much getting the battle cries you all want. right? You either want heal, you either want +1 spell, or you want taunt, right? So it's
Those are all
In
useful,
most
man.
situations,
yeah.
yeah.
But then
Pretty
you get
awesome.
Searing Totem sometimes, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, okay,
what am
sure.
I,
Yeah,
a
but
paladin
whatever.
deck? Come on.
Yeah. Well, what
Oh,
about
man.
that? Like, is the paladin hero ability just a bad shaman ability? Like, I mean, because paladin, you only get that 1/1 every time, and so maybe
True.
sometimes that consistency is nice. Like, I like it if I combo it with the sword, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, well, I'll just put out my 1/1 and it doesn't really do anything, you know?
Well, I
Take a
think
one
like
with the sword.
yeah,
I did-
but with Paladin, you can get out 2/1/1s, you know, turn to turn, and then your 2/1/1s technically overwhelm the just searing that then has to reset through 3 more totems.
That's the idea, is that you're supposed to
So,
be able
yeah.
to gain forward advantage with it, but
Yeah,
I'm not.
I get what you
sold
mean though.
on
I get what you mean.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if there was
right.
like, thing is, there, I think the paladin effect has something to do with buffing. Like early game, it's like kind of okay. It's like, well, you know, a lot of the hero powers just kind of trade with each other. Generally speaking, they all kind of trade in the early game. But like you can build it, and then if you have anything in your deck that like is synergistic with it, you know, I feel like that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like for
Yeah,
me,
you have to
my
have
totems
synergy
are
with
oftentimes like
Yeah.
just because I'm playing a control deck, I use them as targets for my opponent a lot of the time. Where I'm like, these are going to slow you down because you have to kill them, because if you don't, I'll screw you up with them. You know that. So I guess you just have to like try to make that synergistic, which again brings us back to the priest and the warrior and why their hero abilities are not very good.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. Let's see. Well, any final thoughts on that?
On the decks we play, I don't.
I guess.
I think we're pretty good there.
All right.
Something I want to bring up real quick is we were actually talking before about like Hearthstone kind of as like an esport, the randomness and stuff. Let's step away from that. What about the pacing of it? Because I actually had to commentate Hearthstone. I commentated it in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong esports tournament.
Wow. Okay.
Like 2 weeks ago. And like basically the way we did it, because there's no like real observer client yet, is we just got the feed of one guy's screen. And the thing that I like about it is that like you can't play things too quickly. Even if you like, you can put in all your commands real quick, right? But the game slows its pacing down. You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
It gives you time to read
It's
all
nice
the
and
card
fluid.
text if you need to, and
Right.
yeah, I think they've done a great job with it. I think that goes back to just like the polish that Hearthstone is already showing. It's going to be like massively good, you know, when it comes out, and it's already like really, really good in beta. But yeah, I really like how all the spell effects interact together, and like you said, it doesn't move too fast. It's pretty great.
What do you think of the
I-
Norse Dormu card then? That actually is the only card that affects pace, right?
I've never played against that actually.
I haven't either.
I saw a tournaments were banning it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's why I wanted to ask about it, because
Yeah.
I think the card is so not noob friendly. Like, it's not observer friendly either. Like I can probably do my turns 15 seconds. I'll make more mistakes, but for a new player, they're just this is like this. When I saw this card in the card list, because I was reading all the Hearthstone cards like 6 months ago or something, like I was like, oh my god, I just want to make a deck based around getting that guy out quick. Just make noobs quit, like just because it would be so frustrating to have to play against that. But I don't. It seems like a card that's probably not actually good for the game.
Yeah,
Like, I guess it's
kind
good
of gimmicky, you know.
That's how you kill Rogue. I just got an alarm bot on turn on turn 2 with the
you're
coin
right.
Dude, alarm
into
bot's awesome.
Nosdormu, and Rogue doesn't have enough time to cast 15 spells. They're done, man.
That's true. That is
Sick.
true.
I've heard of that one. Yeah, that's a good. I think that's a good way to deal with it.
Oh God, it's also It's also a 12-12. No, it's
He's pretty
I don't
base.
know. It's like
he's pretty
8-8.
big.
It's
whatever
8-8.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 8-8. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, you know what you mentioned, Dan, though, about the spectating. Kind of like what we have here going on in the show, where the card comes up on the right hand side, like on the, on the Twitch TV. That's what Magic the Gathering does when they live stream like world tournaments or like national tournaments or any like pro tour qualifiers, etc. And it lets people a card gets played and then it comes up on the right hand side so that people can read the card text. in synergy with the commentators kind of explaining what's going on. And then it shows like cards in both players' hands, the mana cost of the cards, the color. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can balance it into Hearthstone, but I think like Spectator can easily be like integrated into the game. So
I think it wouldn't be too hard. Like the game is not that hard to really follow. I don't
no,
think.
it has a beautiful tutorial.
Yeah. Well, it's very easy to learn, that's for sure. It's a lot simpler than Magic, but
Yeah.
I mean, just when the cards come out, I feel like they basically do things slow enough that you can tell what's going on.
Yep.
Some of the graphics are a little bit weird, where like if I'm playing a card, it just kind of disappears. I know what I played, so it's fine. But if I'm looking over someone's shoulder, I might not quite know what's happening. But
Yeah.
So, given that, do you think the skill cap is high enough? Given that people share decks, I mean, some decks are public, and there's only 30 cards.
I mean,
So,
with competitive Magic, all decks end up being public. It's like everybody
Yeah.
publishes
Yeah.
deck
Yeah.
lists
after
with
one tournament,
results.
I
So
guess.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so.
Everyone's playing the same decks, but consistently the same pros time and time again always find the way to make top 8, top 16. And that's not
Yeah.
luck. It's just they understand. Great, pros can make great players look bad. Like, if you just know what you're doing and stuff. The one thing that I don't like about Hearthstone is you can't view the graveyard. Or the discard pile.
That's a little bit annoying for me.
I
So,
wish you
like,
could scroll
what-
down in
like-
the list of things that happen in the game. Yeah. a
Right,
little bit
right.
farther.
So, like, if I was playing a player I respected in a tournament or something, I would probably actually have a notepad out or, like, a piece of paper, and I would write down every card they played.
For
In the turn that they played it, and then I would, like, mark that up with, like, synergy combos that, like,
Yeah.
is in their, behavior pattern, basically, like, from previous matches,
Yeah.
and then just, like, notarize that. Because you can do that in Magic with the discard pile. You know what I mean? And
I can't tell you how many times in Magic tournaments you look through your opponent's discard pile and just it's like that is a little bit annoying because I'll just be sitting here kind of half-assedly playing and being like, wait a minute, does he have another hex? I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
This is my third shaman in a row.
Yeah.
So
I
that
just-
go ahead, Doa. Yeah.
I wish. Well, this is all like wishing for the future, but I hope they have a replay option at some point too, because I love to. If I play against a really good deck, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I want to like try that out and see how it works and stuff. So I try to. Right now, I'm like trying to memorize everything they play, and then immediately I jump into the collection editor. I'm like, all right, I think I saw this and this and this and this, and I try to like remake the deck so I can examine it more, but. I'd love like a replay system or the ability to stay in the game after it ends and then scroll through what happened in the game to like look at everything that was played and
Yeah,
like,
that would
all
be
that.
cool.
Just review it a little bit.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, they already show 6, right? It's like, how hard is it really to show the entire
Yeah,
queue,
well, just the ability
basically?
to scroll through it, would be cool.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't get
That's
kicked
sad.
out of the game immediately after winning or losing. I could like, it'd be like StarCraft where I could click back into the game and like do other things before I leave.
Yeah, check it out I think they're going to add a lot of that too. I mean,
I'm sure. Yeah.
Blizzard isn't dumb. They're going to,
When
put
do you
in
think
these
this will launch?
things.
Like, what would you guess?
That's a good question.
Would be the date?
By the
Well,
end
it's
of the year,
Blizzard, so
I would imagine.
you think
I
so?
think by the end of the
Blizzard?
I
year.
think so, yeah. I think it'll be out by the end of the year. My guess. I think it's already so close to being ready at this point, and I get the impression it seems like they wouldn't want to have a longer beta test. I feel like this is something where they want to get the hype building with a month or two of beta and then release.
The game is free anyways, so I guess what they really have to do is like test for bugs and test for
Huge imbalances.
the amount of people in the game on the servers. Those are the two important things. So it wouldn't be like hard to launch, I guess, once they have that set. By the way, a bug that I run into a lot, my minions switch their positions a whole bunch. I don't know if anyone else gets
all
this,
the
but like
time.
With
I
my
use
token
Argus.
stuff. Oh yeah, I see it all the time.
Defender of Argus, which gives the +1/+1 to the 2 adjacent minions plus taunt. And sometimes I play it down and it, like on my screen, it shows right where I clicked it, and it is where I clicked it. And then like for Ellis, it was on a different place and only gave one of them. And then throughout the game, it just jumps back and forth on my screen. It's like really weird. So that's an annoying little bug.
Oh, so it was showing up on LS's screen differently than yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
played
wow.
how it was
That's
showing
weird.
up on his screen instead of mine, which is funny because like
Yeah.
I dropped it in the place that it was on my screen. But sometimes I have that happen where like activated abilities are happening like on my Gadgetzan, and he's jumping around in my line, and I'm like, I don't know where this guy actually is. Like, if I want to play a Defender of Argus, I'm gonna, that's gonna be an issue.
That happens all the time for me because I have so many tokens coming out that like people just like randomly switch places when stuff gets played. But yeah, it's something that could potentially be like a big problem for somebody trying to win a game.
Definitely.
Like I'd hate to see a tournament get decided by like some guy's minion just randomly swapping places for no reason.
Well, it's the beta. That stuff actually does happen during betas, so it's not.
I'm sure it'll get ironed out. But yeah, that's one thing I've been noticing that a lot too. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
This has been a pretty good little discussion, but I think it's wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think so. It's been a really fun first episode of Turn2. Big thanks to Chanman and Ellis for coming on. So, guys, why don't you do some shout-outs, plug your stuff. Ellis, why don't you go first?
Well, I don't I guess I don't have any like specific shout-outs. I would normally do like you, Nick, Doa, Monty, stuff like that, like all close friends. But basically anyone that's like supported me or like helped me throughout like my stay in Korea.
Thanks. Yeah. What about your stream link?
Oh, twitch.tv/IMLS. I guess I just didn't count that as a shout-out. But
shout-outs
should.
It is.
Oh, okay.
This is where you say whatever the hell you want to say to promote yourself.
Promote yourself.
Yes. I do appreciate the thanks, though. That's very sweet.
All right.
But it's twitch.tv/what?
IMLS. I stream like 10 hours a day, or like 12 hours, and I try to accommodate to Americans and Europeans.
And just FYI, guys, he's really good, much better than a lot of people that you're already watching. So, Chanman, take it away.
Big thanks to Artosis and Doa for inviting me on the show. This has been a lot of fun. Nothing like talking with other nerds about this game that I love and I've been playing like the last 2.5 weeks every single night. And it's a pleasure meeting you, LS, for the first time.
Yeah, man.
I heard a lot about you, so it's really cool to finally get a chance to actually meet you, I guess, over Skype.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Love at first sight.
Like I've seen your show and stuff. I just never, I haven't met you. So
this is so cute.
Yeah.
What? Doa's like making this
awkward. Cute all of a sudden.
It's awkward, just like it should be too.
Great. No, but let's see. Other things to promote. So I have a few shows this week you can check out. Tomorrow I'll be doing Unfiltered, which is a show that we talk about anything gaming, anything with Destiny. And I'm actually going to have my guest is going to be Trump tomorrow, so we'll be talking about Hearthstone again and just his whole explosion and just crazy viewership that he's had on his stream lately, just with the success he's had. And then Wednesday, we'll have Wednesday Night Sprites, which is the show I do about the StarCraft 2 arcade. And it's myself, Tempo, Machine, and Smix. So check that out. Other than that, you can follow me or follow my channel on Twitch, twitch.tv/ChanmanV. And my Twitter is twitter.com/ChanmanV, which I guess is on the overlay. But big thanks and big love to Simpatico. He's an awesome, awesome producer. So you are so lucky, Dan. You're so lucky.
I know. I am. I'm not going to share them with anybody either. Well, I guess with Della. Della, what are your shout-outs?
All right. I don't know. I'll just pump my Twitter, I guess, which has been on the screen all show, so I don't need to say that. But I will anyway. GG Doa. And my Twitch channel is DOA StarCraft. Maybe I can get that changed eventually, but so I stream a lot of Hearthstone, obviously, and some other stuff here and there as well. So definitely check that out. I'll be streaming more in the future. I've been kind of like out of it because I've had to do a lot of OGN stuff, but now that that's all done, now I've got like some time. So lots of streaming coming in the future. But other than that, I don't know. Thanks to the guests for coming on this week, and yeah, thanks for Dan for being a great co-host. And that's it for me. Dan, it's all you.
Alrighty. Well, it's not just all me. It's Simpatico. He is the best. At Simpatico TV on Twitter, guys. Check him out. He's the guy that produces this show and Meta and does so much stuff behind the scenes that you couldn't even believe it. The guy is the best producer there is. So him and his friend Matt Iliantis makes all of our awesome, awesome music, so you can check them both out. And a big thanks to TT Esports, I'm by Power, my sponsors. Yeah, I think that's just about it. I have a meta tomorrow for any StarCraft guys out there or people that want to find out, Hearthstone's a great game, but StarCraft is the greatest game ever made. So if you want to check that out, my show that's kind of like this is tomorrow, same time, same place. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll announce pretty soon when the next episode of Turn 2 is. Will be next week. So see you then.